Terrible 3D, another disciple of Jigsaw. We will bleed our own blood to get out of this trap. Will our past sins of watching terrible horror movies come back to haunt us? Or should we don our pig mask and join in on the fun? Welcome to They Mostly Pot Out at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 65 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. Join us as we enter the Cult of John Kramer. This week we are doing only 2 movies because there's 10 movies in the Saw franchise now, and I don't want to overload ourselves because we're doing the 2 episodes, per week for October for Spooky Month. So for this episode we are doing Saw 3D, also known as Saw the Last Chapter. Or the final chapter. Not the last, the final chapter. But as we all know, whenever you put final in the title, it's never the last one.
They mean final for about 5 years.
Right, yeah. And then we have Jigsaw, which is the first one to not put Saw in the beginning of the title. I guess they still have it inside of the name. But
yes,
the first one did not have it in the beginning of the title. So, just 2 this week. Like I said, Saw the final chapter, because it is in the like title cards as Saw 3D, but everywhere else I've seen it is Saw the final chapter,
and it's very blatantly 3D.
Oh yes, it is. Yes, it very much is. It's like watching Jaws 3.
Yeah.
So where like very cheesy effects, you're like, what is this going on? It's because they translated 3D to 2D, and it looks like garbage. It looked like garbage in 3D, but at least it was 3D.
And I'm sure I warned you about the blood, and I'm sure you noticed it too.
Oh yeah, it's horrendous.
Yes.
Yeah, like that. Back in the old days, they had an excuse. Now there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Right. But yeah, so I guess I have to go over the quote unquote plot of Saw.
Okay, so how many
final chapter
would you say that there's 3 subplots in this movie?
Let me see.
I'd say Hoffman and Jigsaw's wife Jill.
Okay.
Carrie L's character, and then the actual game.
Okay. Wait. Carrie L.
Carrie L's?
Oh, Carrie Elwes. I was like, Carrie L's. Who the fuck is that? Yes. So, we have the game, which I guess includes a little bit of the wrapper, but not much. We'll just keep that in the same plot line. And then we have, I guess Carrie Elwes would be in that plot line.
Yeah.
So it's not a separate plot line. I guess there's just the 2. So there's the Hoffman plot line, and then the game plot line.
Yes.
I'll just go over the game plot line first, because the Hoffman one kind of gives away a lot of stuff at the end.
Yeah.
So we'll do the game one. Anyway, there's a guy. Okay, now we gotta like put on our retcon hats here.
Very much so.
Because things are happening that it's like, what? So you just gotta kind of forget all the other movies and put yourself in an alternate universe where the Jigsaw has killed. I don't even know. Okay, because I was trying to figure out the percentages, right?
Yes. Like,
okay, in the first movie, how many traps are there versus how many people survived?
4 traps, 2 survivors.
One
that we knew of.
Right. So I was like, okay, so we're talking like at the very least 50%. I was being extremely generous with 50%, right?
I'd say 25%.
Right, probably. But I was saying even at 50%. Now, I'll get it. Okay, I'll get a little bit into this so this makes more sense. Anyway, the main plot of this here is there's a guy who is a Jigsaw survivor.
He's a Boondock Saint.
Right. Yes. John Patrick Flannery. Yes, we all know who he is. He was he Powder? Yeah, I believe he was Powder too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he is a survivor of Jigsaw, and he wrote a, motivational self-help book that is like, a bestseller. Everybody loves it, blah, blah, blah. Now, okay, we'll get into that later because I don't want to give that part away. Anyway, so essentially, he wrote this book, and he's kind of sort of famous, and he runs like this support group for Jigsaw survivors. Now, in this group, okay,
we know
now we'll
two
get
of them. We know two of them.
We know two of them, which is this guy, and then Carrie Elwes does show up. He just basically makes fun of the guy and leaves. Like you can tell he doesn't really want to be a part of it, but he's there nonetheless because he is technically a Jigsaw survivor.
Oh, I did recognize besides those two other ones from the support group.
There was the lady that chopped off her own arm from Saw 3, 4. Which one was that one? Whatever, it doesn't matter. The one where there was the two whatever payday loan people that had to like cut off pieces of their flesh, and she chopped her own. Whatever. Yeah. So there was her.
And then I'm pretty sure the secretary from the insurance salesman. With the two people hanging, the older woman that was there. I'm pretty sure that's her. Which I didn't know this. I didn't notice. The 6 years between these two movies that she was there.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Whatever. But whatever. So I guess they pulled in some of the actors that were actually Jigsaw survivors, but essentially in this little room, there was 13 survivors. This is counting him and counting Carrie Elwes. There was 13 survivors. Now, again, going off of my very, very generous 50% survival rate, that means there was at least 26 traps at this point. And that is only if every single survivor came to this particular meeting, which again is extremely unlikely. So like, all odds aside, I would say like this is probably at extremely generous 1/3 of the survivors, right? So we're talking 39 traps?
Yes.
Anyway, so I'll try to complain more at the end. But yes, so we're talking 39 total traps have happened, and then there's these 13 survivors that are discussing it. Anyway, so he's basically talking about his trap and how he survived and how everybody has to be strong and, do things, and how he's strong because he loves his wife, and he has his whole, kind of crew of people that, make him famous, like his publicist, his lawyers, and whatever, all these people. So all his handlers are there with him. So essentially, he, puts it on thick with everybody. Carrie Elwes gets up and insults him, golf claps him.
He does.
Makes them feel bad. And then they go to leave. And then they essentially all get captured, drugged and kidnapped, as, Saw traps usually start out. And then he goes in there. Now we'll go over the traps later. So I'm just going to go over the plot, which is going to be extremely fast because there's not much to this. Anyway, he wakes up, his wife is in a trap, and he has to perform tasks based on the other people, his other handlers. So he has to perform traps that are he has to harm himself or sacrifice himself in some way to save them. And there's 3 of those, and then he gets to the end, and then at the end he has to save his wife. But anyway, the big twist there is that he wasn't actually a Jigsaw survivor. He made the whole story up for money.
Yep.
So essentially at the end of this, Jigsaw makes him do the trap that he says that he did originally.
Yes.
To save his wife, which he fails. And then the wife dies. He, I guess, survives. They don't really say, right?
Right. They don't say.
Yeah, that's how his ends.
And we will never find out.
Right, and that's just how that ends. Until the next movie has another Saw victim support group, and then he ends up there or something. We'll never know. So that's plot B. Okay.
Yep.
Plot A is that Hoffman is Jigsaw, and after the events of the last movie, everybody knows this now because the wife. Jigsaw's wife, what's her name? Jill. I think. Yeah. Jill has now told the police that Hoffman is the guy. Police,
because all the other police we've met are dead.
Right. Yeah. And of course, she knows this person because he's in IA. I don't know if these people understand what IA is. But they use it in this movie and in the next one. I don't think they understand the concept of IA.
Are you saying IA doesn't interrogate witnesses?
No, yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, IA is literally an internal unit to investigate police activity. They don't investigate regular crimes. Like, I don't understand why in this movie and in the other movie, both IA people are out there investigating crimes like they're detectives, and that's not how it works.
Well, in fairness, the city has lost like 20 cops over the past.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe they had to put everybody on the streets, whatever.
Right.
But, essentially, so this IA cop that was investigating Hoffman to begin with, she gives him the information saying, like, I know it's Hoffman, I have the proof, but you have to protect me. You protect me, and then I'll give you everything because I was
diplomatic immunity.
Right? Yeah, I was technically a part of everything. I know everything, so I can give you all the information to get Hoffman busted, but you have to give me immunity.
Right.
Okay. So then there was a trap. This bizarre trap, but anyway, so a bunch of people die in the trap. We'll go over the trap later. A bunch of people die in the trap. All the cops converge because they know it's a jigsaw trap, right? So they all converge and they're all, wrapping everything up. And as they're wrapping everything up, there's like an explosion in this junkyard because it took place in the junkyard. Explosion takes place in the junkyard. Everybody gets distracted by that. And then anyway, they wrap everything up and they, bring the bodies back to the morgue.
Yep.
And the cop guy is, this IA guy is investigating. He puts Jill in a safe house. The safe house gets a video from Hoffman, like delivered to the safe house. So they very obviously know where the safe house is, which the safe house appeared to be in the basement of the police station. Like, that's not how safe houses work, but whatever. Yes. Let's get past it. So he delivers it to the police station and they're like, oh, he knows she's here. Like, where else would he deliver it to? Even if he did know. Whatever.
Right.
So it's a CD that's play me. So it plays it and it's like him going over some nonsense about, I'm going to get Jill, blah, blah, blah. So
give me Jill and the game will end.
Right. Yeah. Give me Jill, game will end. And
he's not even hiding anything at this point in time.
No. So they're like, okay, well, they know Jill's here. So let's just put her in the jail. Like,
right.
Great plan, guys. So they put her in the jail, immediately get another message, basically saying like, oh, I know where she is now. I'm going to come and get her. And then he goes into some like cryptic nonsense that only this IA guy understands.
Yep.
And then he goes to this place that was described in these riddle by Hoffman. And it was like the first place where he knew Hoffman was crooked. And it was like Hoffman saved him from a crazy homeless guy, but also murdered the homeless guy in cold blood at the same time. Like the homeless guy stole the IA's guy's gun when he was still a beat cop. Yeah. And then when Hoffman said, drop it, he dropped it immediately and turned around. It was getting ready to get arrested. And he just shot him anyway. So that was when he knew he was bad, but he also couldn't do anything because he saved his life also.
Well, he said he did report him and he got promoted.
Right. Yeah. But that's why he went in IA. That's usually what happens is like all the other cops hate you. So they just put you in IA because all the cops hate them anyway. You're right. So
right.
Problem solved. So they basically that's when that's when everything started. So they eventually they get another clue where they figure out, I traced where the video was recorded at. Oh, it's back at Pete's Auto Body.
They traced the IP back.
Right. Which
no matter how many proxies they went through.
Well, I'm just saying, like, how would you get the IP address off of a recorded? They specifically said it was an MPEG file.
Yes.
How do you get an IP address from an MPEG file?
Great question.
The first, okay, no, I do, okay, I'll give them that one. Like the first one was a delivered CD. The second one, they said they got it from an email.
Yes.
So I guess technically, whatever, they could have got it from the email somehow. I don't know how he wouldn't.
First off, the junkyard has great internet connectivity.
Well,
to send it and a video file on top of that, that's a large file system that you're emailing.
But I'm just saying, like, I don't know how you wouldn't, like, if you send it from any, like, email service, they would have no idea where it came from. But
correct.
Anyway, that's what they're going with, is that they got it from an email. He was running his own private email server and delivered it directly from there with the IP prominently displayed in the header to make it easy.
Right.
So anyway, so they're like, oh, it's the Pete's Auto Body. Oh my God, that's the junkyard that we were at earlier. So they go to the junkyard. And of course, IA guy finds a secret hidden door. He goes through the hidden door and he finds this is where Hoffman was hiding the whole time they were investigating and getting everything ready. And they find somebody with the Jigsaw assassin robe on. They knock him over, and it's one of the people that died in the trap earlier.
The racists.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll go over that trap. Yes. But yeah, so it was him, and they're like, oh my God. So they're like, oh, they must have switched bodies. So yeah, Hoffman, when everybody was distracted by the explosion, he put himself in the body bag and then took the other body out.
Yes.
So they delivered him to the police station morgue thinking he was the body. So as soon as they opened up the body bag, he just starts stabbing people in the neck. Face. Yeah, he literally stabs everybody in the neck in the same spot, like right underneath their jaw. He stabs like 3 people in the same spot, and they all die immediately. And then he finds Jill, and he goes, "Oh, I got a present for you." So he goes in like the evidence locker, and he pulls out. Well, first he touches the mask that she put on him, and then he decides that he's going to use the one that was put on Amanda in the first
OG.
Right. So he clamps it on her head. And then, pulls the pin to start the timer and then watches her.
And like, unlike she did, actually make sure she's
right.
Dead.
Yeah. Like she put it on him and then left. But in this movie, they retconned it to show that she saw he survived.
Right.
But in the original movie, she just walked away and did not see anything because it was a different door that he stuck his face through than the one she came through in the previous movie.
I'm pretty sure it was a window in the last movie.
Well, it was a window on the door. That is true, but it was a different door. She left through a different door than he stuck his face through. In this movie, it's the same door.
Yes.
Again, we're retcon crazy in this timeline here. So he watches it happen, and she does die. Like, we get to see what happens, what would have happened to Amanda's head.
We finally see the most infamous trap actually happen.
Right, yeah, because Amanda survived, then Hoffman survived. So she dies, and then Hoffman, I don't know, does he get away? I don't even remember.
He walks out after he shows the camera every ID he has, like shows the camera, sets on fire, burns the building down with his looked like maybe $1,000 in cash that he brought with him, like his giant duffel bag with like 3 stacks of bills.
Right, and they were all like small bills.
Yes.
Yeah,
and then he gets jumped.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right. I forgot. And then he gets stabbed and drugged by people in pig masks, and then we see that it was Carrie Elwes is apparently
the entire time.
Yeah, it was Carrie Elwes the entire time. I guess there was a scene in the very, very beginning of this movie of Carrie Elwes burning his leg closed.
Yes.
So like he found a steam pipe after he cut his foot off in the first movie and burned it closed, and then we see like him and Jigsaw being best buds. And then he was a part of all the murders, just like Hoffman was. Like how the doctor and Hoffman did not cross paths.
You mean considering the doctor is the one that was sewing people up and putting things in their body successfully? Right. Yes.
I'm like, how is that possible that the doctor and Hoffman's paths did not cross before that point? It's like literally the odds are impossible.
Right, because he seemed very shocked to see Dr. Gordon alive.
Right.
Like,
well, we knew he was alive because he was in the support group. So like obviously he was alive.
Then Hoffman didn't know that.
How did Hoffman not know?
I don't know.
That's impossible. It wouldn't be. That would not be because he was on the case. So he would have to know all the survivors.
You'd think so.
I'm just saying. Anyway, and so the MacGuffin that we got from the last movie of like Jill dropping off the package that was in the box that Jigsaw gave her, as like his will and testament, whatever. She delivered it to Dr. Gordon, and then Dr. Gordon now is jumping into the fray to punish Hoffman.
Right, because Jigsaw said, if something happens to Jill, seek vengeance.
Right.
Yep. And Hoffman gets locked up in the same bathroom, which is suspiciously missing a body or two.
Well, we see Ryan, we see the doctor's foot.
We see Zeb, but we don't see the bro from number 2.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He would.
They
be
showed
there
the
too.
entire floor. We see Zeb still in the same spot. We see Adam there, but the other guy's not there, which is weird.
Well, maybe they needed raw materials for something. I don't know. But yeah, so that's the end. So yeah, that's that plot A, plot B. That's it.
Yes, and like I said, it ends with Dr. Jordan having followers of his own.
Yeah, there was at least 2 other ones.
Yeah,
wearing pig masks. Yeah, so
yep.
well, I go of course he's got the bad foot, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So,
retcon galore.
Yeah, retcons like crazy. So I guess okay. Go into your high points. What do you got?
Oh, we gotta discuss the traps first.
Oh, sure. So this one starts out with the department storefront.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that's essentially like, okay, this is another thing that bothers me. Like, how did these people get in there? How would no one have witnessed this? Because that takes a lot of work to set up.
Also, it's a very busy place.
Right.
Clearly.
Like there's people everywhere. It looks like they're in the middle of Times Square. Like if there's people it's like a wave of people. Anyway. So it's like 2 guys wake up and they're like on either side of a saw that appears to slide back and forth. So there's a saw on each end of this, like, whatever long board, and they can push back and forth at each other. And so then another panel opens up, and it's the girl is hanging from the ceiling above another saw.
Yep.
And essentially we learn that she has been playing both of these guys. And so they both are in love with her, and she's just using both of them. And so she immediately starts manipulating him, like, oh, kill him. And then he fails. And then she's like, oh, I love you. Kill him.
Yeah.
And so they basically decide, like, hey, like, this lady sucks. Let's just just kill her and both of us live. And he's like, okay. So they do.
Yep.
They kill her. So essentially, yes, she slides down on the big blade and gets cut in half.
Yes.
And the blood is very, very bad. It looks like red paint. Like watery
I
red
told
paint.
you it was Fulci and Argento style paint.
Well, yeah, it's like watery red paint, and the effects are terrible.
Yes. Because 3D.
Oh, just stupid. The 3D doesn't mean you have to have bad effects.
Correct.
It usually means that, but it shouldn't mean that.
Yes.
Okay, so then we'll go into the B plot, right? Because I did that first in the description, so we'll just do it. Okay, so B plot is guy that faked being Jigsaw victim. Okay, so the first room is that the first room he's in a little cage, and he gets dangled above like a bunch of like, I don't know, dagger looking things, and then he
has to swing. Yeah.
Has to pull a lever to release the bottom, and then he had to swing it back and forth to get out of it. And but that's a pretty weak trap. So then he goes to the next one, and this is his publicist is in a trap that essentially has got 4 big needles that are pointing directly towards her neck.
Yes.
And whenever she goes above a certain decibel of sound, the needles start moving closer to her neck.
Yep.
Now, the key to unlock the device is inside of her stomach, hooked to a fish hook.
Yep.
And it's tied to a rope that's hanging out of her throat. So he has to pull the fish hook out of her stomach all the way up her throat to get the key to unlock it. And he has to get her to shut up while he's doing it.
Right.
He fails.
Yes.
She gets stabbed in the neck because she's screaming like the entire time. And yeah, it's pretty unfair. I don't know how you would pull a fish hook out of your stomach without screaming. That's ridiculous.
Correct.
So he fails that one. The second one is there is the lawyer lady is in anyway, she's like strapped in, like, I don't know what, I'm trying to remember what those big circle things are called. Whatever. It's like a big gyroscope looking thing.
Right. Yep.
And she's sitting in there, and she's got like another 3 big needles pointed at her eyes and mouth. And essentially he has 60 seconds to hold, like, to do, like, what do you call those? Like
a squat.
A squat, but you have to push up
with
your feet. So it's
like a squat
he's
crunch
not squatting
or something.
down. He's like pushing up. Right. But anyway, he has to push up on this other device with like weights on it, like literally a home gym. Yeah. And he has to lift it all the way to the top to get the gear to disengage. And he has to do that for at least 30 out of the 60 seconds for her to survive.
Right.
But when he does that, there is these little spikes that come out and stick in his sides.
Yes.
So like he goes up and he gets stabbed in the side and immediately drops it. And then he goes up and does it again and he gets stabbed in a different spot. And then he drops it again. And then he goes up and gets stabbed in a different spot. He does that 3 different times and she still dies anyway.
Yep.
So, but again, I was like, dude, you're already stabbed.
Yep.
Just keep holding it up there. What does it matter? It's already done. By dropping it and then raising it back up, you're just getting stabbed more times.
Yeah, because he positions his body in a different spot for some reason.
It's like, whatever. So she dies anyway. The next one is his best friend is on the other side of this room towards like the floor is gone and there's like these planks like, going between these concrete pillars. And he's wearing horse blinders.
Right.
But they're covering his whole eyes. Like it's not like he can't just see on the sides. Like he can't see anything. He's blindfolded. So he has to direct him how to walk across the planks to the middle, and then he's supposed to like get this key and meet him in the middle to unlock it.
Right.
So he has to, try to get over there and talk him through it. Anyway, so the guy actually gets to his middle point. Talking through it. I mean, yeah, he falls, like one of the boards breaks, but he manages blindfolded to pull himself back up onto the board and get up there. So he miraculously survives that part of it. So the guy who's the fake dude gets the key and genius move decides to throw it to a blind guy.
Yep.
And, to no one's surprise, he drops it. And so then he gets, a big chain hangs him from the ceiling and he gets hung and dies.
Right.
So third test failed. Then he goes down to this new one where his wife is like chained by the neck to like a big kind of like, it looks like a metal altar.
Oh, very much looks like a metal altar.
Yeah, so anyway, so he has to, she's covered by like electrical wire. So he can't get to her because it's covered by like, electric fence.
Right.
So he has to do the trap that he said he survived, the fake trap that he made up, that he said that he survived. He has to do that trap in order to save his wife.
Yep.
So he like hooks these big hooks through his pectoral muscles, and then has to like lift himself up by those hooks with the chain.
Yeah.
And then he gets all the way to the top, and then he has to like connect this
extension cord
cord together. And as he's doing that, the hooks rip through his pectoral muscles and he falls to the ground.
Yep.
So his wife dies. Now, this is a ridiculous trap. I mean, the amount of engineering that would have to happen for this to actually go through, wow. But anyway, so the altar like turns into a transformer. And like literally like a giant like circular cylindrical dome comes out of it and like puts her inside of it. And then like
it looks like a cockpit.
Right. Yeah. And then like the lander from the old school like Orion missile tests. Yeah, it's like that's what it looks like. Anyway, but then the 2 end caps pop on there, and then of course these giant flames start hitting the bottom of it. So it's like the brazen bull, like the old school, in the bull and they catch the bull on fire and you roast alive in there is essentially what happens. So she roasts alive and she dies, and then he's crying on the ground, and then that's it.
At least we know that she actually dies from the fire this time, as opposed to the guy from number 2.
Right. Yep. So that's bad.
Yeah.
So, but he does survive, I guess, because they don't show anything else in that hole.
He went 0 for 4.
Yeah. He failed every time. I mean, some of those were a little rough, but he failed every time.
Yep.
Okay, so then we get the Hoffman one. So the Hoffman one is essentially there's 4 racists
Chester Benjamin.
Yeah, so we get racist leader guy is in the driver's seat of a car, and his back is glued, stapled,
glued. It's just glue.
Well, I don't know. It looks like staples.
Yeah,
but anyway, whatever. So his back is glued to the upholstery of the car.
Yep.
Now he has his skin bird girlfriend is like underneath the car. The car is on jacks.
Right.
So his girlfriend is underneath the back tire of the car. The one guy is just chained up against the garage door in front of the car. And there's a guy behind him that has the hooks from what was the one that had the guy? Is that the third one or the second one?
Third
one. So yeah, the guy that has the big circle through his jaw, big whatever piercing through his jaw and through his body with chains going to the back of the car. So, and the car has an 8-track player.
Yes.
and the Play Me comes the Let's Play a Game comes out on the 8-track, that's impressive.
Very much so.
Anyway, he has to peel himself from the back of the upholstery and then reach this lever to disengage the engine to stop the whole thing.
Yes.
And if he doesn't do it in 30 seconds, I think he only gets 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah, if he doesn't do it in 30 seconds, then, the events will happen, that kill everybody. And so, yeah, basically, I mean, I don't know how you could even have done that in 30 seconds. He does it.
He does.
I mean, he peels both his arms and his back off of it, but he doesn't get to the lever in time. So it basically the car falls off the jacks onto his girlfriend's face, and her face explodes, and it runs over her body. And as it's traveling to the garage door, it rips out the jaw and the arms of the guy behind the car with the hooks, and then he drives into the guy that's chained in front of the garage door. And then he flies into the junkyard, and then it crashes into something else. He flies through the windshield and then dies, I guess, inside of that car.
Right. 0 for 4 again.
Yeah. So so 4 people die there. That was the trap that they were investigating. That he switched out. He switched out the body bag for the guy that was missing his jaw.
Yeah.
And then really the only thing is the other one at the end where he puts Amanda's mask on Jill.
Yeah.
And that's really the only trap in that one.
Yep. So you want me to start with my highlights?
Go for it, buddy.
All right. So, even though a lot of shit was retcons, okay, there are actually previous stuff when we see hooded figures setting up traps. We never see the face of John Kramer or Hoffman or Amanda that walks with a limp, indicating that at some point in time, they thought about having Dr. Gordon come back as a disciple of John Kramer. So they had the insight to include that 3 or 4 movies ago.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure they, it's in, because whoever the disciple could be anybody. And, it's better for them if it's somebody that was existing in a previous movie. So.
Right. So, and there was lots, I know at the time, there was lots of theories about who it could be. And everyone's like, oh, wait, you go see that person limping. Okay. And then all the surgical precision that Jigsaw doesn't seem to know. Now, granted, all these people have masters or doctorates in engineering.
Right. Yeah. The only guy who gets called out is Hoffman the one time for using the wrong kind of oil or something.
Right. So it's nice. It seems like they probably had this plan for if Carrie ever decided to come back to the franchise, that he would be one of those people.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he had an open call. They were basically if you ever want to come back, please just let us know.
Right. So I liked, even though this retcon was there, that there's still hints that it could have been him this entire time, and then getting closure about what happens to him. And seeing that, you see, I'd say this movie and the next movie as well, you see more of a human side of Jigsaw. And I do think I like the social commentary about the guy who lied about this stuff, because this is 2010, 2011, and everyone wanted to tell their story on Jerry Springer or anything like that. And that was just a good way of showing how much people are pieces of shit and can you capitalize on the torment and destruction of other people's lives. There's a good commentary on that.
Right.
Other than that, nothing else. How about you?
Yeah, my eyes. I mean, just seeing Cary Elwes again, it's nice. You know, I mean, he was out for 5 movies, but you know, he came back and that was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked how they went back to 1 like again.
Yeah.
And they're like retconning stuff again. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's fun. They're not necessarily breaking stuff. They broke a lot more stuff with that stupid support group than they did with Cary Elwes.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Cary Elwes, okay, that's fine. I can get over that. Because they also kind of like implied that Dr. Gordon was like, yeah, he was involved in stuff, but he was kind of like not fully invested in it. And it just felt like he wasn't fully invested until he got the package from Jill.
Right.
And then he was like, okay, I'm back. I'm in it full time now. Like before then, it just seemed like he was probably helping out with certain things that he could help out with.
Right. Hey, do this and keep them alive. I'll do it. All right.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, the Dr. Gordon would probably be better at being Jigsaw than Hoffman would be.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Hoffman doesn't really seem to give a shit about the rules. He just likes putting people in situations where they get killed. I mean, he doesn't seem to give a shit about the game. Whereas the Doctor, I feel like he probably would follow the rules better.
He was probably the perfect disciple of Jigsaw.
Right.
That would carry on the legacy more than anyone else. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. Even though some family issues, but whatever. I guess his family did survive, so that's okay.
Yep.
But yeah, that's about it for high points that I got.
Why don't you roll into your...
Oh, you want me to roll right into my low points? Roll
right into your low points, yeah.
Okay.
I want to hear what they are, because I know what mine are.
Number 1, the end of the last movie, Hoffman's wound was significant. He was missing half of his face. There was a huge hole where his cheek should be.
Yes.
In this movie, it's just the scar.
Yep.
You know, he just goes, he literally just sews it up, totally fine.
3 stitches is all you need to take half of your face back, half of your lower face back on.
Right. Well, we're talking like he had a hole in his cheek like the size of an apple. It was giant. Like if you would have sewed that closed, your face would have been like stretched. You would have looked very weird. And he just has like a tiny scar. And I swear to God, by the end of the movie, they just stopped putting it on it.
Oh, they did.
Like by the end of the movie, the scar is not even there anymore. Like they just was like, whatever. Who gives a shit?
Right.
2, I really feel like this movie was filmed with a camcorder. It looks terrible. I mean, like really, like the cameras. It looks like they just like bought it from Best Buy. I mean, it's like there's no like professional equipment used in this movie. It looks so bad. Like you could tell the budget got like slashed.
Oh yeah,
or something. Yeah. But it literally looks like it was filmed with like an old school camcorder. It looks terrible. Again, we're rolling. The blood and effects are horrible in this movie.
They've always been good.
Yeah, they've always been good because that's like the one thing that Saw is good at.
Yes.
There's some of them that are okay, but most of them are they're just subpar in this movie. You know, especially the one where they opened up on. That one was just like inexcusably bad.
Yes.
And even when they show blood like running, you know, like people get stabbed in the neck, like blood is running out. You can tell how watery it is.
Oh yeah.
Like it's literally like flowing off of people's flesh and skin like it's water. Like you can tell it's just like dyed water. It is so bad. So bad. 3, the acting. Oh my God. The acting is so bad in this movie.
It is.
It's like they recruited everybody from like a community theater somewhere. I mean, they are just over the top, just horribly acting all of these scenes. Everyone is bad. Like Hoffman wasn't great in the other movies. He's like even worse in these movies.
Oh yeah.
Jill again was horrible in the other movies. She is even worse in this movie if it's possible. Just bad. Just very, very bad.
Yep.
I guess we could bring up that one dream trap that she had, which was
okay. So yes, you can talk about that. Okay, so essentially, it was like all made just for 3D. It was like a rail car that's gonna with like a cow catcher on it that was gonna impale her at the end. right? Okay. And here's the thing. She, in this dream, had the stitch up scar of Hoffman in her dream, which she would not have known about.
Wow. Okay, there's a lot of things that are wrong with it, but yeah, okay. And then like again, it was like this jet rail car with a big spear on the front of it that like tore her in pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very stupid looking, very dumb looking. I guess maybe it looked better in 3D. I don't know. It was terrible.
I watched it in 3D. It did not look any better. I can promise you that.
Right. And I'm having a lot of notes here about me trying to figure out how many survivors there actually are. Like I had to do a tally because I'm like, how many people are sitting around this table? Or it was not a table, a support group. And it was 13. There's actually 13 people there at the meeting. And then I'm like, how many total traps are there? So again, I'm doing all this math. And again, that's when I came up with it. There's probably about at least 40 traps before this point.
Yes.
That have been in existence. And again, that's a very generous number. So yeah, they just like went crazy in this one. Like the last one, they decided to add a whole bunch for Hoffman, so that he could have some before, which were never mentioned in any of the other ones, especially the first one, which was very heavy into the previous cases. Never mentioned the other, at least 3. We talked about at least 3 before that point.
Yep.
And this movie is just like, let's make it 50.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. I don't think that's how it works, but sure. Nope. I could not stop laughing. There's a scene where the guy who wrote the book about being the fake Jigsaw person, they have a scene where he's doing a book signing, and Jigsaw goes to the book signing and has him sign the book to John, right?
Yes.
Now, oh my God. Jigsaw is dressed like Steve Buscemi from the Fellow Kids meme. Like he's literally wearing a backwards hat that does not fit him in any way whatsoever. I mean, I could not stop laughing. It is so bad. I don't know who the wardrobe person was for this movie, but they should be fired. They should have been retroactively fired, retconned and fired. It was so bad, but also so funny.
Yeah.
Again, in this movie, we're back to people not having choices again.
Yep.
There's so many people that die based on someone else's choices. They don't get to make any choices for themselves. All those people that were trapped had no choice at all. They had to rely on this other idiot who he knew was going to fail.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, all of those people, I guess he's punishing them for supporting him. He keeps saying, like, you knew he was lying. Like, did they? I mean, there's probably like they don't care if he was lying because that's their.
Didn't.
Yeah, the wife did. Well, I'm saying the wife didn't, but why would they care? Why would he tell them he was lying?
Right.
Like his best friend probably didn't even know he was lying, unless they came up with the idea together. But I'm pretty sure like the lawyer and the publicist.
They sat at the bar together, so his best friend definitely knew.
I mean, maybe, but like again, at the bar, he saw a survivor on the TV going like, "Oh, I survived and he helped me," and blah blah blah. And he's like, "Hey, that's something I could do." That's it. We cut away. We don't get anything else. The guy was there with him drinking, but that doesn't mean he was involved.
He's like, he said that, man, imagine someone that survived that could really cash in. And then all of a sudden his friend gets caught in the trap and cashes in. I mean, you have to know.
I mean, yeah, it's extremely suspicious, but again, are you going to say, like, if he says he got caught in a trap and he comes out and he's got all these scars and everything, are you going to say, no, bullshit, he's your best friend?
Right.
We don't know. We don't know if he told anybody or not. But again, whatever. We're getting out in the weeds here. But again, we just take their choices away. They don't have choices. Yep. So even if they did know, they should still have some method to try to save themselves. And again, that's, a lot of these movies, they take the choice away. And this game was supposedly made by Jigsaw himself.
Right.
Which is, again, if Jigsaw would not have taken these people's choices away if he follows his own rules. Which, correct. Again, he chooses not to all the time. But again, this movie is so bad. Sorry. That they just decided to just not give a shit about the rules at all. And just, again, go back to the whole, we can have somebody else decide for him. That's fine.
Yep.
But yeah, that's against my complaints with being filmed with a camcorder and bad complaints and bad math and all that retcon trash.
Yes.
But yeah, that's it. What do you got?
The special effects. And I inherently blame because Lionsgate isn't on it. So it wasn't Lionsgate. They helped make it, but it was some other studio that was first and foremost on the opening credits, right?
Yeah, this one went rogue. I feel like this one did go rogue.
Well, they probably spent their money on the 3D budget and couldn't afford anything else. Like, hey, you know that really visceral and blood that we've been using? Yeah. How do we make it bright red?
Yeah. Red and watery.
So we don't have a blood budget anymore, guys. Whoa. What do you mean you don't have a blood budget anymore?
Yeah, get a bucket and a bunch of Kool-Aid. That's our budget.
Right. And so I think the actors also came on that cut of the budget for the 3D.
Yeah, they probably had to, because they had to pay for Hoffman and Jill to return back. So that was probably their whole actor budget right there.
Right. So, okay. The fucking turret. Hoffman has a turret that he kills the mini cop.
Oh yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, no, the machine gun that pops up. It's like, yeah, it's like the end of Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Somehow. Yes.
I'm just going, where the hell did he get that?
Well, and how the hell did they not see it? Right. It's like an M60 sitting in the corner. You would notice that. It's not a big room.
Yes. I'm just going, all right. So this guy is a world-class engineer. It gets his hand on heavy artillery that just wipes out everyone. And then, also kills, I believe he kills the, lone IT person. There's like 3 people left in the entire prison, and he kills the rest of the police force. At this point in time, there is no more police force in this city. I'm convinced.
Yeah. They should have all wore like, high, stiff, starched collars. They would have, Hoffman would have been unable to attack them.
I know.
Because he only attacks the under the jaw. He only stabs in that exact same spot.
And what the hell was his plan at the end of this all?
I don't know. I mean, literally, all you had to do was like, wait, they can't keep Jill there forever.
Right.
You're not in custody. It doesn't matter if they're trying to move forward with a court case. You're not caught.
Right.
Just wait it out.
Yeah. Or just leave.
Who cares? But again, he's got all these hidden places everywhere. Just wait it out, dude. Why are you trying to like draw people in with this like usual suspects nonsense that you're pulling? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Just wait, dude.
Yeah. That, like, and like I said, when that machine gun turret came out, I'm like, God damn it.
I checked out of this movie long before that. I mean, I was just like, this is horrible.
Yeah. Those are definitely my low points. Man, this is my only second time. This is your first time seeing this.
Oh yeah, no, this is the first time. Hopefully my last time.
This is my second time seeing it. And holy shit. I'm like, I didn't realize how bad it was. And I go, oh wait, this is probably why I only had watched it once.
All right, so what do you got? Tetanus shots out of 10. What do you got?
Oh my God. This is, in my opinion, easily the worst one.
Oh yeah. Well, so far, yes, that's true.
So far,
that is true. I got 2 more to go that I have not seen.
It could go lower, so I can't go all the way down. But I will give it 1.5 tetanus shots out of 10. There's room below this. Not a lot of room, but there's still room to go below this.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I have 1.5 tetanus shots out of 10 as well. Because this is just atrocious. I mean, it is, like I said, they went rogue on the whole storyline. They like retconned how many like Jigsaw murders there are. Again, how many survivors there would be. Mm-hmm. I mean, just again, we're on like, 7th tier characters by now.
Yep.
Like nobody cares anymore. It's just bad. Again, if it wasn't for Carrie Elwes, I don't think there would be anything good about this movie.
Correct. Also, we still never got closure from that little girl that wasn't supposed to trust Hoffman, and we never will.
Yeah. Again, who knows? Maybe she was a child then. Well, this next one. Oh, sorry. There was one more note that I had for final chapter is like at some point in there, they literally said that Jigsaw has been doing this for years.
Yes.
Now,
by our counts, it was like 8 months.
Right. Well, yeah, we're like realistically, right. It's probably somewhere around there. Like we had the 6-month gap in there, but almost everything happened around that same time. And now all of a sudden they're retconning it, saying it's been happening for years. So, okay. I guess that's where all these other 40 traps happen, but I don't know how, like, Jigsaw and Jill did not age from the beginning to the end of this, but whatever. Sorry. Now we get to the next one here, which is Jigsaw, and I'll let you take it away.
All right, so we'll call it the A plot and B plot again.
Mm-hmm.
B plot will be the traps because realistically, they don't have much to do with anything else.
Correct.
I will say it right now, and I'll ruin it just for the plot line. There's 2 timelines.
Right. Okay, I'll get into how upset I am about that in a bit. But yes, there are 2 timelines, and just like what was the other Saw 2? We are not told that these things are not happening concurrently. We are basically led to believe that both of these are happening. And in this one, I would say unfairly tricked into believing both of these things are happening concurrently. But.
Yes. All right. So the A plot is Colonel Rugged Handsome Man. I don't remember his fucking name at this point.
I think his name was Big Joe.
Maybe.
I have no idea. I don't remember.
So essentially we follow another detective who clearly seems like a slimy grease bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It starts off with them going after a guy. He's like, oh man, he's trying to like solve like a scavenger hunt instead of something big. He's holding the detonator. He's like, oh man, I have to choose who lives and dies of 5 people. He gets shot and killed.
Well, he just gets shot. He doesn't get shot yet. He doesn't get killed yet, but he gets shot.
Surprisingly, the big shot through the chest did not kill him.
Right.
So anyway, that's that plot point. We'll continue with it, but we are introduced then to the rest of the game. But anyway, we meet the coroner because the last one was killed by Hoffman, 6 years prior.
Which is funny because that guy was in a bunch of the other movies too. Like he was always the medical examiner. Now he's dead. So now they had to bring another guy in.
Right. So we're seeing people go through the trap. And then as a person dies in the trap, we see their body at the morgue, and we have the new coroner and his very lovely assistant,
Eleanor. She's a delight.
Yes. Sorry, Logan. Yeah, he's a bro name. And they're going through like, oh man, this person was killed this way, this person was killed this way. And what's really interesting is that they get the recordings. Like, oh, there's a USB drive, and what you do with any found USB drive, you plug it in right into any computer available.
Right. Okay. Yeah. A USB drive that was put in a dead body.
Yes.
We don't need to investigate. We don't fingerprints, DNA. Nah.
Just the IT team's dead too.
Yeah. Well, that's true. We don't have an IT team anymore, so we just gotta wing it. Oh yeah. Right. So they just like cut off the plastic with a scalpel.
Very carefully, and then plug it into a random computer.
And then plug it into a network live computer. Genius move.
Yeah, as both of us being IT guys, we probably just go, no, please don't.
Exactly.
No.
That's you never ever plug a USB thing that you found on the ground into a computer. Never ever do that.
No,
especially not if it says something like wedding pictures or something, like whatever they say. Porn. Something that like they try to lure people into going like, oh, let's see what this looks like, and that's you plug it in like an idiot.
Right. So that look, it's John Kramer talking about the game. There's 4 left. You have 4 left out of 5, and they like, oh man, we got to trace this and find out who it is. And long story short, it is Jigsaw's voice. It's not someone scrambling it, because you scramble voices to make it sound like someone in particular, as we got in other movies, and like this is Jigsaw.
But here's the thing: is that Jigsaw did use voice distortion on his voice. It wasn't just his voice.
Right.
As we saw in other movies that were literally had plot points revolving around them trying to find out what his voice sounds like under the distortion.
Right.
And in this movie, he just talks normally.
Yep.
Which is very odd to me.
Well, they lost that budget. All right?
Apparently, they lost the voice distortion budget.
So anyway, they're like, oh man, another game is afoot. And like immediately, the new detective's like, oh man, that Eleanor, she seems to be like a fangirl of Jigsaw. She's on the website dedicated to him and all the stuff. And, another person, jogging, we see someone hanging there. They get the body down. The other, pieces are taken out of everybody, 3 left. And like, oh my goodness, there's blood in here. It matches John Kramer. It's the exact match. It's John Kramer's blood underneath the person's fingernails. After we see someone, with that in that trap, right?
Right.
Like, is he dead? Is he really dead? Like, we start hinting at like a supernatural element for the very first time, other than genius engineers, to this. So, the public's in the war. They're like, it's been 10 years since his death. So he's been dead for 10 years.
Right. Yeah. So now we fast forwarded 10 years in the timeline.
Right. So anyway, as like I said, people are going through the game. And they start, like I said, suspecting the hot assistant to that. And they follow her to her studio because she said she lied about her alibi. She's a studio that is essentially like in Scream 6, the museum of all previous screens. This was the museum of John Kramer and his stuff.
Right. Yeah. It was like, it was a bunch of like kind of functional models of like previous traps and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they do see a trap that we have never seen before from any previous, but it could have been one of the 40 previous traps that we don't know about.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Which, and the cops, follow and take pictures of like, oh man, we're taking her in. And the Logan's like, oh man, I think it's this cop because like, where has he been? Like, he's a dirty cop. We don't trust him. He seems very intimate with all the stuff and is just a hard ass. And like, so he convinces his other detective to kind of go into investigate. He's like, oh man, you're right. IA's been looking into him, all the stuff. Like, oh man, the guy that was shot, we have to investigate him. And he ends up going missing. And during this process, they're like, we need to dig up, like the mayor or someone's going to dig up John Kramer's body to prove to everyone that he's dead. They dig it up, and lo and behold, it's the guy that was shot in the very beginning of the movie. They're like, maybe John Kramer isn't dead.
Yeah. David Copperfield.
Yes. Mind freak.
Right.
So they're like investigating the body because he's dead now, and like to pull out the bullet, like this is the guy's, the maybe crooked cop's bullet that he uses. He's the only one in the force that uses a different gun than the standard issue.
Right. Okay.
Right. They're literally looking
all
for
you idiots like realize that you can use the same bullets in different guns, right?
They're literally looking for like the smoking bullet.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Right. So like, oh, this is him. They go investigate his house and they found the 4 pieces of the bodies cut out, the jigsaw pieces, in his freezer. Like, oh man, this is definitely him. So
right. Okay. Now where did the 4th one come from?
Is hanging in her gallery, her shrine that like came out.
Oh, okay. No, I think it's. Oh, okay. No, it was the guy that got shot that was in the coffin. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was like, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. So she's like, hey, I think I figured out where the game is. I looked at this previous stuff, and they're like barnyard and fecal matter and pigs. Like, okay, so somehow we got out of the city instead of the one warehouse, finally, into a nice, farmland area. And what they think they're walking in on the game that's currently going on because we see everything from the game, so kind of like number 2 where they're walking through the house, like right behind people, right?
Right.
So anyway, she goes, I think this is going on there. The maybe crooked detective shows up, kind of knocks her unconscious, knocks Logan unconscious, and then he gets jumped, and then they wake up in their game. And we'll just go through the plot twist right now. is that Logan was a survivor of the game that happened 10 years ago, and he is replicating the game. He replicated the game again to get these new bodies that are there. He recreated the game that everyone that we're seeing in the trap part of this plot in there. And he was the guy who mistakenly mislabeled John Kramer's x-rays.
Right.
So Kramer, Jigsaw put him into the trap, and he's one of the guys in the trap. And then we find out that his trap was 10 years prior.
Right, yeah. So essentially we learned that B plot happened 10 years ago.
Yes.
When Jigsaw was still alive.
Yes.
A plot happens 10 years in the future. Jigsaw is dead.
Yep.
He is actually dead. And he manipulated his voice and blood and stuff to recreate the B plot line in this modern day.
Yes. To get the bodies.
To get the bodies so that they think that old game is happening now.
Right. And he's getting revenge on the crooked cop because he released the guy who killed Logan's wife.
Right. Yeah. He the guy that killed his wife was an informant for the crooked cop. So the crooked cop got him off on a something that should have kept him in jail.
Right.
And because he got off, he killed his wife the next day. So if the cop would have done his job, his wife would still be alive, is the logic that he's using.
Correct. So we have another disciple of Johnny Kramer.
Right. Yeah. And they also show him working together with Jigsaw. This is
making the very first
This is
before
Hoffman now.
And before Gordon.
Right. This is before everyone. So there's another mystery disciple that somehow none of these other disciples ever met.
Well, he was only the very beginning and now at the present. So
yeah, it's
he's the bookend.
Right. I guess so. So that's plot line A.
Right. The trap plot line.
Well, yeah, the plot line, the B plot line is essentially there is no plot line. It's just a bunch of traps strung together. It just 5 people wake up. Each trap they're killed off one by one.
Yeah.
So the last trap they kind of kill each other.
Right. So yeah, that's the storyline. So it happened twice. We don't see the next group of people. We just see their bodies.
Right.
They're taking place in the current timeline.
Right.
Of the recreation of the game from 10 years prior.
Right.
So the plot line that we're following, that's the past, right? was there's 5 people chained up with helmets on, and they're getting dragged through chains through a wall to saw blades. And easily we always joke about how stupid people are because he gives you the perfect clues. So like you have to bleed. We have to bleed to get out. What? Going to the saw blades, right? And so they're not tied to anyone else. All they have to go there is draw blood, and somehow the helmets knew they drew blood, and they're able to take it off. So
magic helmets. Yeah.
So 4 of them make it out, and the last guy, who is Logan, is put there, and he's back together. So he drew blood, and then showing more humanity of John Kramer, he realized it was an honest mistake. Showing that John Kramer isn't a monster.
That I don't really truly believe that was the reason why. I think that might be the reason why he thinks so.
Yeah.
I think the reason why John Kramer felt bad for him is because he was literally unconscious
the entire time.
He was unconscious. Yeah, he was unconscious. He didn't hear the tape. He didn't hear what was going on. Everybody else was already shedding blood and through the door before he even woke up.
Right.
So he woke up to he was 3 feet away from saw blades. He had no chance at all. Again, we're going back to old school Jigsaw that actually followed the rules of the game. I think that's why he felt bad for him.
Right.
I mean, I don't think he gives a shit about the reason he puts him in there, because there are people that he puts in games that have done way less than that.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think it was the actual actions that he put him in there for. I think it was just because he was not able to even engage with the game because he was unconscious.
Right.
And then he pulled him out. He did shed his blood. So technically the helmet did come off, but he was severely injured because
revived back to health by John Kramer, who has an astute knowledge of human bodies as well as engineering.
Well, he probably had the doctor.
Right. Dr. Gordon, right.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, and then they became best buds after that.
Yep. So yeah, they help make, because once again, engineering degrees. So the next trap is they are going to slowly get hung by the chains unless they confess. So everyone's in there because no one's a good person generally that's in there unless you are part of someone else's game. Then you have to like confess. And there was a girl who, killed someone because she robbed her purse and she died of an asthma attack. And how much was it worth? There's 3 syringes here with different amounts. One is worth someone's life, and it's like $3.53 or something like that, right?
Right.
So they're getting slowly hung up, and so one of the guys, like, it was you did it, and just injects all needles into her, because one was the antidote, one was
saline,
and one was like,
acid.
Very acid, yeah. And so he's, a guy just shoves all the needles and presses all 3 of them into her.
Right. While he's being hung. So this is, it takes a lot of talent, which is really fucking bullshit, because she clearly says, they're like, how much is a human life worth? And she's like, they're like, do any of these mean something to you? And she's like, $3.53. That was how much money I robbed from the lady with the purse. Like, she says it out loud.
Right.
Like, if anyone would have witnessed that and be like, okay, just stab her with that one, because like, it's obvious that number means something to her. She knows what that means. That is the number. It doesn't make any sense. And then they're all like getting hung, like, what's the number? Like, you already know it. And then after she dies, the lady goes, hey, it must be the 353 because she said that number. What are you guys, fucking idiots?
Well, and one of them is L number, R number, L number, which they know there's a combination lock on the door, too.
That one was inside the syringe. So they didn't see that until after they injected her. That part is fine. But again, I was saying, like, she very clearly said $3.53 was the one that meant something to her. That was, like, the one that was, like, it's not her fault. The lady had asthma attack. Like, she said all this stuff out loud. Everyone all 3 of those people should have gone like, oh, okay, here's the 353, pop, done.
Yep.
But no, instead, Genius, I mean, the guy was an asshole, but still, like, Genius sticks her with all 3, and then she dies.
Yeah. So then they finally get off of that, and then they go into the next room, like, and they play by the rules. Here's doors and not an exit, right? And the Genius guy that stabbed the woman goes, hey, I'm going to go through here. And then, boom, his leg gets caught in a trap. And he has to, it's slowly tightening around him, is going to cut off his leg if he doesn't do anything. All he's do is like pull the lever,
right?
Which would get him out, but we don't know really at what cost.
Well,
then the door opens up, and they go, "Hey, this door opened up by itself. We should both go into this door." And then it turns out to be a silo, so they're going to start getting killed by grain being dumped on them. And then
this is a legit fear of mine. Is I've heard of people like drowning in grain in like those silos. That is terrifying to me. I will never go into silos simply because of. I know I will never go in a silo because of that, because it scares the crap out of me.
Right.
But that's a genuine fear. But yeah, they're whatever.
But unfortunately, Jigsaw's grain budget was not what it was.
Right.
So then he'd start sliding sharp things out.
Yeah, like, shit, we're out of grain. What else we got? What we can put in there? Oh, we got a bunch of sharp stuff. Put all the sharp stuff in there.
Right.
Yeah, it's like pitchforks and shovels and knives and nails, and they all somehow manage to exactly
saw
land.
Blades.
Yeah, they exactly land. 3 nails fall out, and all 3 nails miraculously land in her arm. It's like,
deep
too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's not.
This is probably like a 6-foot drop, mind you.
Right. Yeah. And like
the nails are not going to do that.
Right. The knife goes like at least like 4 inches into his back.
Oh,
like,
I think it goes to the hilt.
Yeah.
I think it goes all the way down to the handle. Yeah.
I don't think so, dude.
But yeah, they're like, we're drowning. We're going to get killed. I'm like, well, they weren't going to drown because the grain was only up to like their chest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, all right, cool. And then he pulls the lever, and his leg gets lopped off.
Okay, well, here's the thing. He was trying to pull that lever.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did like 5 fake outs. Like,
yes,
dude, you leaned all the way over, your fingers touched the fucking bar, nothing happened.
right.
Just do it. Like, not only are you're saving the other people, which he doesn't give a shit about. I know that doesn't matter, but he's saving himself. This is the only way for him to survive, is to pull this lever, and he's literally failing everyone.
Yes,
I was like, well, dude, what are you doing?
yes,
But then he finally pulls it, and then his leg gets chopped off.
right. And
but
then
the other two survive.
Yeah. So he's kind of laying there. They get through the other door, and then we get introduced to that cyclone of red terror attached to a motorcycle, because the black guy in this sold a motorcycle to Jigsaw's nephew, and knew that the brake lines were not working right, and so he died because of it. So he was on the cyclone of death that looked like heated razor blades spinning in a circle. Like
they were just red, but it does look like they are. Like, when you turn it on, it does look like an electric stovetop lighting up. But it looks like just a big like daiquiri machine. Is what it looks like. It looks like one of those big like the automated like margarita machines that like blend it. That's what it looks like. Yeah,
and so they have to he has to just reach through the middle of this cyclone, and is a cylinder, and just to pull the brake lever, like, which I assure you works this time. I'm like, okay.
Right. And it's hilarious to me is that she's like doing all this like ninja parkour stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
To like get up on top of this thing, and he gets his hand all the way down on the brake without her doing anything.
Yes.
So like he's already in the position where he can save himself, and then she stops the wheel.
Right. She jams a very steel rod into that
rebar. She puts rebar in the wheel, which stops it. And then what does he do when she stops it? He retracts his hands and goes, "Oh, thank you, you saved me."
Right,
dude.
And then the world's weakest rebar breaks.
Right. Yeah, then it snaps in half, and then somehow he gets destroyed. Like, I don't know how that would happen, but yeah, he gets like totally destroyed.
Yeah. And then Jigsaw is like, "Hey, we did it. We survived." Then boom, they get drugged. They end up, he's like, "All right, the keys to your salvation are in this gun." And the 2 survivors are not locked up with different color locks. Like, well, clearly we have to kill one of us has to kill the other person, will be free. So she fires a shotgun, and because there's keys inside the shell, backfires and kills her.
Well, like, keys wouldn't matter,
right?
Because they're just shrapnel. Like, I mean, if you ever remember Resident Evil, where she used to put quarters in her shotguns, you can do that. I mean, that's a thing. They used to do that back in the Wild West, but you can do that. But yeah, he must have rigged the gun. He must have put something in the barrel to make it do that.
So, and then, the guy's like, "Wait a minute, we saw him build this bullet." He said the keys are in this bullet, and they were in the bullet, but now they're destroyed. So trapped, boom, they're now dead 10 years later. We get to see him later with the detective and the coroner. And then we have the laser trap that if you don't confess what you did, it'll slice through you. He's like, "Oh man, I know what these are. These are lasers." And Logan seemingly gets killed because blood comes out, and then he's dead. And then the cop's like, "All right, I confess to everything." Then Logan gets up. He's like, "Yeah, I know your informant killed my wife." That's who reveals himself. And then the detective realized his lasers are actually burning the walls, and the guy's wasn't. And then, we don't get a game over from Logan, unfortunately, when he closes the door. And then the cop's head gets sliced open, and it opens up like a beautifully peeled banana.
I was thinking more like a squid.
That too.
Like squid tentacles.
Yes. So we have another disciple who doesn't know anything about Hoffman or Amanda or Gordon.
Right. Who waited 10 years to do anything.
Right. End of movie. Right. So what were your highlights for this?
Highlights? Let's see. One highlight is I felt like they got enough budget for real cameras this time.
Yeah.
So it is a better visual quality than 3D for sure.
Yes.
And then Eleanor. Eleanor was a delight.
She was.
It was a pleasure to see her. I hope she comes back again because she did survive.
Yes, she did.
So we'll see. I don't know if there's another movie I have not seen, but I don't know if she comes back in that, or maybe she'll come back in Saw 10. We'll see. That's it. That's all I got.
Wow. I mean, besides the retcon and stuff like that, I felt like this was a more memorable than the past couple Saw movies.
Memorable, sure. It's just there's so many things that don't make sense in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like they jumped the shark like not once but multiple times in this movie, and I think it's just unforgivable to me. It is a better quality movie. It is made better, like the writing, the acting, all of that is better. Granted, than the last one. The last one is, I mean, horror. It's a terrible, terrible movie.
Yes.
All that stuff is better, but again, there is so many logic traps in this movie that everyone failed. There's no way the writers wrote this that way. There's no way. There's no way that anyone's that stupid.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, to me, the highlight is it was a better movie than Saw 3.
Yeah, that's correct. It is. It is a better made movie. It looks better. It is
hands down.
Right.
It seemed like at that time, because I saw this as well when it came out, that Saw came back to what it should have been, at least the way it looked in trap-wise. So, the rewatch after watching all those, it varies differently now, but at that time, 6 years ago, I'm like, okay, we're returning to form. Yeah, there's a lot of retcons, lots of plot holes. So yeah, I'll just roll in my low points then. Yeah, definitely the retcons and the plot holes. My God, like we don't keep needing disciples after disciples after disciples. They really should have just stuck with the supernatural element and brought John Kramer back.
Really, and then, like I don't think anyone would be surprised.
No,
if he just faked his own death and came back 10 years later, no one would question it.
Correct.
Tobin Bell is there anyway. It doesn't like who cares?
Right. It's just another plot line. We discuss threads a lot in our podcast and plot lines, stuff like that. It should have just brought him back. It's like John Kramer's back, like because the retconning of all these different apprentices needs to stop.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is they put everything on like one apprentice and then they don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
And then they have to come up with another one. Instead of recasting, they just come up with another one.
Right. What are your low points?
Okay. First one here is, yes, the acting and writing is better than Saw 3D. But that is such a hard drop down that it's still a long way back up, and these guys still have not come back to even sea level yet. So the acting writing is still not great in this movie. And I think one of the big problems that I have in this movie, well, I guess I'll go into this later. I'm going to do some of the easier ones first, and then I'll go into this movie really feels like they had a script that was about the quality of Saw 3D. And they unexpectedly got more money than they thought they were going to get.
Yeah.
And they made a better quality movie using a subpar shit script is what this movie really feels like. It feels like they unexpectedly, we have a lot of money for some reason, so we can make a good movie, but we don't have the script to make a good movie. We'll just fake it. Is really what this movie feels like to me. It's like a bunch of hucksters making a big. They somehow tricked people into giving them more money than they deserve for this movie, and they made like a generic version of Saw with the money that they got. Okay, the grave switch.
Mm-hmm.
There is no possible way that when they were digging up that coffin, they did not see that it was previously disturbed.
Correct.
There is no way. Because I don't care how David Copperfield magic mind freak you are. There is no way that you can dig up a coffin, remove the body, put someone else in there, put it back in the ground, put the dirt back in, and make it look like no one touched it. You can't do that. So like they would have noticed immediately, hey, look, somebody's messed with this grave.
Mm-hmm.
It's still miracle enough that it happened, right? But I'm not necessarily saying that's impossible. I'm saying it's impossible to do without people seeing that you have been there previously. And two, okay, now we have to go back earlier in the franchise here. They specifically say that John Kramer had, what kind of cancer was it? Colon cancer?
He had a tumor in his head.
No. He had colon cancer that eventually moved to his head. They specifically say earlier in the first couple of movies, he had some other kind of cancer that eventually migrated to his head. That's why he had such a bad, diagnosis. Like, he wasn't going to be able to survive this because he had a major cancer that he didn't catch early enough that had already moved through his whole body. And so the end result of that was, yes, he did have a brain tumor, but it started somewhere else in his body.
Okay.
So if you switch up x-rays showing the tumor in his head, he already had another kind of cancer.
Yeah.
Why would that have mattered? You know what I mean? Yeah, they wouldn't have caught the tumor early enough, but they already knew he had cancer. So, like, he was already, suffering. He was already going through all that shit anyway. That doesn't matter. He's going to be in the hospital every other week getting stuff anyway. This one misplaced x-ray, I'm sure, set the people back maybe a couple of weeks. But that's it. Like, I don't understand why they made such a big deal of that. And then they're like, oh, he saved me because he realized it wasn't that big of a mistake. Like, there is a lot of thinking and premeditation that happens with kidnapping, drugging, bringing someone all the way out here, strapping them into a bucket with saw blades and chains and all that kind of stuff. Like, he would have thought of that or before that point if that was really the reason. Which is why I think really the reason was he pulled him out because he was unconscious and he couldn't play the game. That to me makes sense. The other thing of he pulled me out because he realized it was a simple mistake. He had days to show himself that, oh, this is really not that big of a mistake. There's no way he just thought of it the last second. Two late. Well, I know where I'm not past two. Anyway, however, whatever number I'm on, laser cutters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what future does this movie take place in? They don't have laser scalpels,
right?
Well, not to that degree. I know they have medical lasers and stuff. I'm not saying that, but they don't have like handheld versions that just cut through metal and stuff like that. Just will cut through flesh, like, turn them into squid tentacles. That doesn't exist. Okay, now two major problems that I'm going to get into here. One, he specifically said that he recreated the traps that happened 10 years ago, right?
Yes.
But he decided that he was only going to use 3 people and that him and the detective were going to be the last 2.
Yes.
How do you replicate 5 people traps with 3 people?
That's a great question.
You know what I'm saying?
Other than to die.
There's only 3 people involved. 1 person dies in the first room. Okay? Second room is the stabby thing, right?
Well, maybe everyone survived that.
How the hell they skipped completely over the grain trap? That could not have happened with only 1 person.
Well, that's assuming somebody stepped onto the spot they weren't supposed to.
Well, again, he said he replicated the entire trap.
Yes.
From beginning to end. He would have had to omit that entire section.
Yeah.
And then again, here's the biggest problem that I have with all this is there is no way that you take 2 completely different groups of people, put them in the same trap, and they would do the exact same thing. It's not possible. There is no way that you would take 3 people and say, oh, there's 3, things here, because obviously if there's different numbers for these people, you can't replicate it exactly. But again, the cops wouldn't have seen the numbers. That doesn't matter. But there's no way that you would have had a guy inject her with poison in the exact same point in the body that they did it to her 10 years earlier. The odds of that happening are like infinity impossible. There's no way that the exact same thing would happen to 2 different groups of people 10 years apart. It's not possible.
Yeah.
The odds of that are, again, just outrageous. And the ridiculous logic traps that happen in this. Like, in order for that 3rd trap to work, someone has to go to the no exit and fall through there. What happens if they just listened, said, oh, there's no exit, let's follow the rules? What would they have done? Stood there? You know what I mean? They would have been there for days. Nothing would have happened until someone walked down that, because that's how the trap started.
Yeah, that's very true.
If they went in the grain silo, they have no way to shut it off. If all 3 of them walked in there, what would have happened? You see what I'm saying? There's a huge logic holes in these that don't make any sense unless they happen exactly the way they do in the movie. Like in the next one, when the guy goes in the blender, right? He has to go and pull the play me out of this little tiny section of the tractor, right? And then he gets grabbed by a snare trap and lifted up into the air. What are the odds that he was standing on that exact spot? A snare trap only works in a very tiny little circle. Okay, that's why it's not meant to trap someone in a specific time. It's like you put up a trap and then whatever it catches, it catches. That's why you catch rabbits with them and shit. You can't catch a person in a specific spot with a snare trap. That's not what they're there for. The odds of him standing in that exact spot when he hits play is ridiculous. There's no possible way that would happen. Because how big that warehouse was, why would he be standing in that exact spot? Why would he have grabbed that from the other side? Then they would have been all standing there watching the blade spin around and nobody's trapped in there. We got it. The traps don't work with only 3 people. But again, I know that they said that just because so he can hit the last 2 people at the end. Which again, he doesn't even replicate the trap from 10 years ago. with that, which again, he's already breaking his own rules. But yeah, 2, it's like these things would happen exactly the same is ridiculous. And 2, that these traps happened at all. It's ridiculous. The other ones is like Jigsaw locks you into a contraption that you have to somehow break yourself out of, right? You're put in the situation you have to get out. These, it's like you have to wander casually into it. Which is very, very stupid. And then, like, again, the lady clearly said $3.53. Like, okay, here's the $3.53 one. Are you going to do something or not?
Right.
I don't know. It just again, the logic holes in this movie are ridiculous. That's why I'm saying there's no way that a decent writer wrote this, because a writer would see these huge logic holes saying like, this movie will not work if these things do not happen in this exact order. And Jigsaw, being the planner and engineer that he was, would have planned for something like that. So to rely on like a snare trap, trapping someone in that specific spot at that specific time, doesn't make sense. That you have to rely on somebody walking on the no exit porch and falling through in order for your trap to even start. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm saying those again, like, you know, jump the shark twice there. Like it lost me. You know, it was not a great film before that point. That point, it just pissed me off, because at that point you're just insulting my intelligence.
Yes,
that's all.
So after all that, how many tetanus shots out of 10?
Like I said, this movie like really pissed me off. Like it would have definitely gotten a higher score than Saw 3D. Like, you know, by a lot. But like those huge holes, and that like the intentionally, you know, misleading you with bodies that somehow died in the exact same way that the people did 10 years ago. Just pissed me off. So I'm gonna say Eleanor's in it, so we'll give it a 2.
2
shots out of 10.
I mean, we've been, not the first 3, but we've been pretty on point with being the same. I did enjoy this more than Saw. Well, I enjoyed it more than Saw 6. A little bit. No, I'm going to go 2.5 tetanus shots. So at that time, I had seen it, and I thought maybe it would be different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Clearly not. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't disappointed necessarily in it, especially after watching all of these. So I guess that's just me there. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and bring us home then?
Well, that's what I say. I was doing research just to verify. And I just verified on like several different websites that Dr. Gordon diagnosed John Kramer with colon cancer that turned into a frontal lobe tumor.
Oh.
And the tumor was inoperable, but it started as colon cancer. So the switching out of the X-ray would not have upset him. But anyway, small issue.
Yeah.
but yeah. So that's it. We're out.
Oh, I forgot one low point from Saw 3D. I just want to bring that up now. You ready?
Yep.
Ready? If you know that Jigsaw is an active serial killer, why would you say that you're in a trap while he's alive?
But yeah, I mean, that's again pretty stupid of you. I mean, again, the guy wasn't a rocket
genius
surgeon for sure.
Right.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
Why would you say that you were a victim of a known active serial killer while they're still active?
Yeah, I don't know. Especially after he's done it to like 50 people. Like he obviously doesn't have a high bar for the people he's doing this to. And if you're deliberately like teasing him, you're gonna get it, and it. Like you should not be surprised.
Correct. So, all right, now why don't you go ahead and bring it?
All right. We are in the final game. We will have the wherewithal. To remember the rules of the game. Will we take a shortcut that punishes us? Join us next time where we choose to live or die for the last time. Maybe. Remember, we watch bad movies so you don't have to.
And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Okay.